So you know that I love golf tech that may be a little quirky, off the reservation, but might help improve the game for the amateur golfer, and this putter just might be it. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. I love golf tech that you don't see every day. You know, I know there are a lot of really good golfers out there that are showing you all the mainstream stuff, but man, I love finding stuff off the reservation, and I definitely found something that is way off the reservation. But there's so much that's different about this, and yet so much that makes a lot of sense and is so easy to use. So first of all, I have a putter here. This is by FreeFlex, but they have a brand that they call Special Joy, and that's actually going to be my nickname from now on because I am that kind of special joy. But what is incredible about this is that I have been playing this a while, and normally I would think that this might actually hurt my game just based on kind of my putting style and my putting preferences, but this thing is kind of amazing. So first of all, I want to start because there are two separate components here and there's a lot of stuff going on. First of all, there is this shaft by FreeFlex, and you know FreeFlex, I have shown you their Special Joy shafts because they're basically kind of like an Autoflex, but 20% cheaper, and they're amazing. I use it in my driver. I really love it. I actually ordered 2 more FreeFlex shafts to try, including their hammer throw and then this SP30, which is the lightest golf shaft I've ever heard of. So stay tuned for that. But I want to start with this, and you might be able to see it right there. It says Special Joy Roly-Poly Shaft, and it's got this beautiful like watercolor looking paint job on it. It's pretty amazing. I like it. I like it a lot better than the hot pink of the Autoflex, although now they have yellow and some other colors too. But what makes this shaft really interesting is that it's all carbon fiber. Now, when I first got this, it reminded me a lot of this shaft. I actually showed this to you. This is the Paterson Kinetics Tuned Red shaft, and it's all carbon fiber, and it just expands from this really narrow bottom all the way up to the top here, and there's no grip. It's got some sort of like tacky material right here, so you don't put a grip on it. You can see how big it is, but this shaft is actually very heavy, but it's super stiff. I actually love it because I actually tried it on a putter as well as this Cleveland chipper here, and man, it's just great. It gives you so much feel. So this shaft is very similar because you can see here it is just carbon fiber all the way from the bottom to the top. It gets progressively larger. It's not as big at the top end. I would say it's about 1 inch thick, so it's kind of like a jumbo putter grip. That's what it feels like. And from about here to here, it is like straight. It just tapers a little bit down here. So you get a really nice big jumbo grip feeling, and it's got this kind of matte vinyl, almost rubberized finish on the top, so it feels a little grippy. It's not super grippy, but it's not smooth and slippery like the shaft here. All right, now one important difference here is on the Paterson shaft, you can see it is round, which feels great in the hand, but it makes it a little tough to index and line up. What you might be able to see here on the Special Joy shaft might not be super easy to see, but it is hexagonal, so it has 6 distinct flat sides to them, and that makes it really easy to line up in your hand because I can put my thumb going right down the top here and I can know exactly where the head indexes based on where those thumbs are. Now, the other thing I want to show you here is it has a cap right here, and you are not supposed to trim this on this end. This is 36 inches, I believe, from stem to stern here. So that's actually a little bit longer than my normal shafts, which I play at about 33.5 inch. But I actually had no problems playing this. I thought I might have to trim it. And they say if you do trim it, you want to trim it down here. You want to remove the shaft from the hosel. You want to trim it down here and then put it back in. It kind of looks like it's a parallel tip. So I think you might have to grind it down if you're going to remove, say, a few inches. But you do all of that adjustment down here. But even as it stands in the stock length, I found it very comfortable to putt with. Although I probably had a couple of extra inches there. It never poked me in the belly, despite my belly doing a pretty good job of trying to encroach on the space of the shaft, but it just felt really good. Now, the other thing about this shaft here that makes it really interesting is that even though it's carbon fiber or graphite, it is super light. I mean, it feels almost paper thin, but not weak or flexible in any way. It has almost like a driver shaft like tone to it and feel to it, but I can't detect any flex in it. It didn't seem weak or dainty or delicate to me in any way. I'm just saying that this shaft feels really heavy and I could beat something with it. This shaft doesn't feel any heavier than a driver shaft, and in fact, the total weight on this thing is very similar. It's 45 grams, very light. And because it has no grip, that's 45 grams total here, right? So my shafts on my putters, I love really heavy. In fact, I have a BG2 Stability 2 polar shaft in mine, which I think is something like 80 or 90 grams by itself. And then I like a lot of weight up on the grip to kind of slow my hands down. When I pump, I kind of like that heavy weight kind of regulating how fast I'm hitting my putts. And so I didn't think I'd like this at all, because not only do I have like a 90 gram shaft, I have a 100 gram pure grip on the end. So I have a couple 100 grams of weight up there just to keep my hands in a nice smooth rhythm. So this is opposite of almost everything that I would putt with, but man, I liked it. What it does is it kind of gives it like a heavy head weight feel, like you're swinging a weight on a pendulum. I think that actually helps because you're almost using the head completely, that mechanical advantage, using the head to swing through the ball. And so did I have a problem putting with it? Lagging, accuracy? Not at all. And before I roll in footage of on the course use of this thing, I just want to say that I had some of my best putts. In fact, from 6 feet in, I was really sinking putts that maybe I'd struggle a little bit with. Just might have been the day, but man, a lot of putts were dropping, whereas maybe I just miss them to the outside just by a smidge or two. Now, before I get to something else that's really interesting about this putter, I've got to talk about the head. So this is their Special Joy S1020 head here. It kind of looks like your standard Answer style putter head. I love the finish on this. It's kind of like this dark gunmetal, almost got like a little bit of a bronze, but it's clearly like a dark gray, almost charcoal, but darker than your standard gray, and I love it. I love the color of it. It looks so nice. You can see the milling on the face here. I think it's going to be a very familiar head to a lot of people. Now, one thing I will say is that it's actually pretty wide. So it's probably wider than most Answer style heads here, but man, it does look flashy. This is kind of like the Vector supercar of Answer putter style heads. And one of the reasons here is they have these straight lines here. Now, what makes it interesting is that these lines are purposeful. What you might be able to see here, if I move my hand back there, is it's not just lines for design, but there are two distinct cuts that go all the way through the putter, and they have a purpose. So the cuts start about here and they go about here, and what this does is it makes some really interesting noises and sounds when it hits a golf ball. Now, I'm just going to kind of quick demonstrate this, but I'm going to actually putt with this and put the microphone right up against it. So what you can do here is if I tap the golf ball on any putter, you're going to hear some sort of noise, like a ping, a ding. But the more I hit the golf ball towards the ends, it's duller. As I move that golf ball towards the middle, we get more of a ping and a ringing sound. And I'll tell you what, when I was putting with this on the golf course, the very first putt I hit, one of my friends said, "Oh my gosh, did your putter make that sound? It sounded like a ding." And I said, it did make it. And the nice thing about this is it makes its most distinctive ping sound. I mean, it's really a ping sound. If ping wasn't already taken as a golf club company, this putter would definitely own that name brand, because when you hit it right in the middle, you get a pretty distinct ping. It's not super loud. It's not super annoying to people around you. It's just really distinct. And that's supposed to help you know if you are hitting it right in the center or a little off center. So that sound diminishes or gets a little harsher as you hit it off center, up to the toe or the heel where it just kind of sounds a little dead. So let me point the microphone to it and show that to you. All right, the last thing I want to get to here is between the head and the shaft now. We've got this very light shaft and a fairly large but heavy head here. What this golf club will do is, if you're familiar with the Bloodline golf clubs, this club will sit up on the green by itself. And so what you can do is you can actually put it behind your ball, step away from it, make sure it's lined up. Now, I never really did that. I didn't really find it super necessary. There are probably a couple of putts where I was like, oh, was I on the right line? Because I didn't quite hit it on the line that I thought, and maybe I should have stepped back. The one thing I will say about this is because the head is not super heavy, it's not a mallet style head where maybe they could put in twice as much weight, and the shaft is probably as light as you can make it. I've noticed that it has a tendency to kind of just lay back towards the shaft side just a little bit, which means if the ground is perfectly flat, it will stand up. And if the ground is a little toe down, it will also stand up. However, if the ground is just a little bit toe up, So heel down, and so you're just on a slight incline where the ball's above your feet. It won't stand up. It'll just kind of fall over. There's too much weight from the shaft. It kind of torques it over. Now, if you were to shorten this up, say for me, another 2 or 3 inches to be the perfect length for me, that might reduce the amount of weight or reduce the center of gravity on the shaft and maybe forgive that a little bit more. But I never really found that super necessary. But if I just put the putter down on the ground like this, it'll sit just a little toe up and stay there, which is kind of interesting. It's a little bit more gimmicky than anything else, and I think especially when you walk away from your putter and it's still standing up on the green, some people might think that's illegal, although I don't believe that violates any USGA rules. I mean, it's just kind of a function of how heavy your putter head is and how light your shaft is, right? So the spoiler alert is I putted lights out with this on my very first time out with this. Let me walk you through what I was seeing. So this was my very first round using the Special Joy putter here, and I have a putt. It's probably 30 plus feet. It is going to break very much right to left because this is a downhill putt. If you send it even a little bit long, it's going to be in the fairway on this green here. So a nice little touch is what's needed on this putter, and it doesn't disappoint. Sent it just a little long, but not too bad. It's going to be an easy putt coming back here. So the nice thing about it is it's just so smooth because of all that weight down low. It just swings like pendulum, and you don't really feel like you're pushing or popping or hitting the ball. You feel like the putter is swinging through. Now on this green here, I have about a 18 footer. It's going to break a little left to right, and I have the line right, but I don't have the distance dialed in perfectly on this one. It's going to hit the cup and just run a little beyond. But normally those 2 or 3 foot putts, I take my time on to sink them, but this one just sends it into the hole. On this putt, this one is really bowl shaped. It's gonna run a lot left to right. It's probably a 35-40 footer, but I am kind of putting in about 12 feet of break to let the ball try to die into the hole, because this is another one where you can run it off the front of the green back into the fairway. So it's pretty aggressive, and you play it probably about like 25 feet because it's going to pick up so much speed going downhill. And again, left it a little short, but this one is going to be easy for the Special Joy to put in the hole because it's only a couple feet. And man, it's easy to line this thing up. Hear that ping as you drop it in the cup. So far it's working a treat. Now this one's only about 10 feet here, and it's going to be pretty straight, although it's going to break a little right to left. Now this is a putt, normally I'm just trying to get it within a few inches for a tap in here, but the Special Joy does not leave me disappointed. You know, this is one where I would not count on it going in, but it's going to be pretty close either way. But today, like a lot of crazy putts, Special Joy was dropping them from 10 feet, which is pretty abnormal for me. You know, 3 to 2 feet are pretty much gimmies, but 5 feet and beyond, 50-50 chance. At best, 50-50. So it's pretty nice to have some of those putts. Now, this one is probably about a 12-footer, and when in doubt, I wasn't really feeling the read here. I just putt straight at it, because if I'm right or wrong, it's gonna break the other way, and if I'm putting it straight at the hole, that's pretty good bet. So as you can see here, it does break a little right to left, almost probably about a foot there, but I only had a few feet coming back. And what do you think the Special Joy does? Oh, well, the Special Joy works its magic, ding, and it goes right in the hole. So normally I like a heavy putter, but maybe a really light putter gives me a lot of feel. Now this one I left a little short of the green. As you can see, I'm on the fringe, not in the heavy rough yet, but what I'm actually gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to putt it up the fringe, because I'm kind of on a knoll, a rise here, and the ball is going to break aggressively left to right. So I actually could have putted it even a little more left. I didn't want to get it caught in the rough, and it really smacked the heck out of this thing, because that's darn near 50 feet to the pin from there, probably 45, 50 feet. So what's really nice about this is, man, it went right where I wanted it to go. I think the fact that it has a heavy head means that you're really letting the club do the work here. And normally on my putter, you know, the head is maybe a little light, and so sometimes I have a tendency to not put enough oomph behind the ball off of the fringe. Here's another one where I'm still off the green, but about a 40-45 footer again, and going uphill. Did leave it a little short, but can Special Joy help me get it in the hole? even though I have left this one maybe 4 or 5 feet short. Well, let's see. My buddy is definitely not going to give me this putt. He's probably not going to make that one either. But as he rolls his by about 3 feet, I'm just going to line it up, trying to die it into the hole, trying to give myself a tap in pretty much every chance I can. And look at that. Dropped it in there. Get to stuff one on my buddy here, and he remembers that. It'll definitely come in later in the day. Again, this one is about 8-9 feet. I've been draining these a lot, but the putter can't overcome everything, including an angry player who you have been smacking around the golf course all day. I gotta hand it to Special Joy. This club has a lot of feel, and I was putting great with it right out of the gate. So if you want to pick up the roly-poly shaft, because that might help your putting, or the putter head itself, or the whole thing, I'll put a link to the components in the description below. Peter Von Panda, out.